everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching and Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channels. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you seasoned veterans. What we do around here, we got nearly 2650 of these available for your listening pleasure. We will continue to endeavor to bring you the best in pro wrestling content, and as I manage to go through different phases of what the heck life is becoming, continuing to do what we can where we can and all of that good stuff. There is a NXT Spring Breakin' is the next thing on our list here. This is, of course, the May 3rd edition of NXT, and ultimately continuing to go Braun Breaker with Joe Gacy, defending two titles on special edition of NXT, and ultimately basically NXT Cameron Grimes defeats Solo Sikoa and Carmelo Hayes, with Trick Williams returning with triple threat match. Grimes pins Sikoa with a cave-in off the top rope. Decent enough match. Solo chants beginning, starting the match. Hayes knocks him off the apron several times during the beginning of things here. The show did open with the tag team champions Pretty Deadly in a pre-tape skit. Full side, they run down the card, and off we go. But Hayes locks on the apron, gets knocked on the apron several times, tries to go back in. Eventually, Hayes recovers and runs wild with a rally and springboard guillotine leg drops. They then take turns running in and through the sequence, and a near fall. Grimes is broken up by Sikoa, and then that leads to a split screen commercial break. They return from the break. Sikoa looks strong, Tower of Doom, and then Grimes hits a Rana on Sikoa, and Grimes also gives Hayes a superplex. Crowd is happy with that. Triple down, they all rise, trade strikes. Sikoa fires up with a flurry of action. Sikoa then hits a Uranagi and then takes Hayes out, heavens, and backs down to the mat. Sikoa then goes for a cover, but Hayes breaks close near fall. Grimes then directing traffic into the ring and then gets another 2 count for a poison rana. Hayes then cuts Grimes off, and Hayes gets 2 count. Super kick out of midair by Sikoa and then cuts Hayes off. Another great near fall attempted. Sikoa leaps off the top rope with a superfly splash, pinning attempt broken up by Hayes. Sikoa then is about to give Hayes the Samoan drop, and Grimes leaps off the top with the cave-in double stomp, and Grimes then covers. Grimes gets covered for the. Grimes goes for the cover for the victory. NXT Women's Champion Mandy Rose, taped earlier today, goes to the tanning bed. Wendy Chu sneaks in, adjusts the timer, leaving Rose the tanning bed for too long. Nathan Frazier backstage freaks out over his debut match tonight. Nathan Frazier defeating Grayson Waller. This is after Indy Hartwell and Duke Hudson tease flirting. Anyway, so Nathan Frazier defeats Grayson Waller. Frazier pins Waller in his in-ring debut with an assist from Andre Chase and the air horn. Frazier is decent enough and looks pretty cool in terms of kind of going through. Mark Long from MTV's in the crowd to cheer on Grayson Waller. Commentary, the announcers talk about Frazier being trained by Seth Rollins. Frazier looks decent in his debut match on the brand. Guy is skilled and basically has a very good training pedigree, obviously. Waller grabs a beach ball and deflects it in front of the crowd before the show cuts to commercial break. The show then returns. Waller cuts off Frazier, and that's where that goes. Frazier goes for the pin. Waller gets his hand on the top rope, breaking it up. They fight on the buckles. Frazier then shoves him off the ropes, and away they go. Waller then is perched on the top rope, looking to strike. A loud air horn goes off, and Chase is there doing the air horn spot from the mid 90s. Sound of the air horn causes an alarmed Waller to fall off the rope and bounce off of it. Fraser then connects with a Phoenix Splash and covers Waller for a pinfall. A vignette profiling Fallon Henry. She's country girl at heart and loves her horse, Luna, and then sits down meeting with Santos Escobar and Tony D'Angelo. Escobar and D'Angelo have their cruise with them. They meet in a pre-tape skit. This is stupid. Meeting gets heated, but they make a peace agreement. They talk a truce, although seem to agree to peace. The music soundtrack hits, and things are relatively open, apparently. Viking Raiders are backstage interviewing, talking about their match later against the Creed brothers. They're interrupted by Pretty Deadly, who warn them not to interrupt the Raiders. The champs then run away. Gacy is in the promo and says they should fear what happens if they don't win the tag team championships tonight. Gacy vows that he'll change the world tonight. Nikita Lyons and Cora Jade defeat Lash Legend and Natalya. Jade pins Legend after a miscue between Natalya costs her and Legend the match. The match itself goes through a commercial break after Cactus Jack clothesline off to the outside, and then the show returns from the break. Natalya works over Jade, hot tag, and Lyons runs wild. Near fall for Lyons on Natty. Lyons then does not see Natty tag out. Legend cuts off Lyons. Legends then has a mount where she's struck with a drop kick and then goes from her own partner. Natty then tosses her out of the ring, and then ultimately Lyons goes with the spot. She does and splits the leg drop. Jade follows up with a flying senton off the top rope. Jade covers Legend for a 3 count. Vignette highlights Tatum Paxley ahead of the breakout tournament. Paxley is a power lifter and vows to win the women's first breakout tournament. I don't know anyone would care about this. JC Jane and Gigi Dolan go to the beach. Skit, they do. Suggestive poses. And then Wendy Cho and Roxanne Perez, they prank Toxic Attraction by stealing their stuff. Cho and Perez steal their car and back it down the street. Dolan and Jane burn their feet on the hot pavement. And then the Creed brothers, Julius and Brutus Creed, defeat the Viking Raiders, Ivar and Eric. Look how far they've fallen. Anyway, Julius Creed pins Eric after outside interference from Roderick Strong. Then there's a tag team hoss fight. And then the Creeds, best match so far. And then best bouts that are there. Viking Raiders control the first half of the match before the show cuts them off to commercials, and Ivar leaps on the apron and splashes. The show cuts away. Creeds then come back after the break. Hot tags to Julius and Creed. Explodes into the ring, and then they team up going into trade near falls. And then superplex spot with Julius superplexing Ivar, popping the crowd. Viking Raiders then manage to hit the signature finish on Julius, but Brutus jumps off into a breaking up submission, subsequent pinning attempt. Roderick Strong, wearing a hoodie, runs at ringside to hit Eric with a jumping knee strike, and then slides down lariat by Julius, covers Eric for the pinfall. The Creeds are angry. They argue with Strong about him interfering in the match. AJ Galante, who was with Tony D'Angelo earlier, sit down, kidnapped by Santos Escobar, and Legado del Fantasma kidnapping. Doesn't seem like a big deal in NXT since it happens at least a couple times every quarter. Alba Faye, which is Kaylee Ray, re-debuting under her new name. Her baseball bat is now a makeshift torch. Why, we don't know. Uh, Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs backstage, medical staff. Brooks has an injured wrist, so they. Anyway, announced for next Tuesday tag team match Gigi Dolan and JC Jane against Roxanne Perez and Wendy Chu. Bout stems from what they did earlier in the show. This show is so gosh darn long. Anyway, during Joe Gacy's entrance, the picture turns black and white. Braun Breaker flips a switch backstage, and the color comes back on the screen. Breaker then wins with his father's signatures from the or is wearing one of his singlets from the 90s. Anyway, Vic Joseph on commentary claims that it's won on the first episode of Monday Night Raw. Rick wears a different singlet for that match. Regardless, Breaker is wearing one of his father's singlets for the match. Braun Breaker, as would be expected, defeats Joe Gacy to win to retain the title. Breaker and Gacy have a very clean match here. Breaker is cutting him off repeatedly. Gacy trips up. Gacy then knocks Breaker off the apron before the show cuts to a commercial break. Gacy is working over Breaker for the show returning, and then Breaker begins to fight back as the crowd barks along to show approval of their newfound favorite. Gacy then dashes the Hope spot, and Gacy sets up for a dive. Doesn't get him anywhere. Breaker breaks up the attempted dive by clubbing Gacy. Breaker then begins comeback. Breaker then pummels Gacy, and Breaker for a pull down straps on the stage. Frankensteiner of sorts, head scissors, but Breaker then botched belly to belly leads to a near fall. Nobody seems to buy this. Gacy is able to sidestep Breaker. Gacy targets the back. Gacy is then 2 count after a sit-up powerbomb. No heat. Gacy then goes for a handspring finisher, but Breaker counters for the finish of the match. Breaker then runs over Gacy with a spear. Breaker covers Gacy for the victory. Breaker retains, stands tall, and the show goes off the air mercifully. This is, honestly, the worst wrestling show on national television on a weekly basis, at least in my estimation.